Good evening, everyone. Before we get into anything tonight, I want to start with this. Welcome. And welcome, Dean. It's great to have you. Uh, I think if you're willing, I'm awfully willing. I'm under the pressure of the hot lights tonight. So maybe if you could turn on your video, we could just, get to know one another and we could do it that way. If not, if you feel more comfortable hiding and being behind the screen in that hidden view, more power to you. Well, so anyway, good evening. And before we get into anything, I want to start also with I don't teach from theory, I teach from rebuild and rebuilding health, rebuilding purpose, rebuilding momentum. Everything I share comes from lived experience and not all from textbooks. Um, there's a lot out there. There's in today's world, not only do we have Amazon books, but we have Instagram and we have Facebook, TikTok, all of the different medias that are really bombarding us with immense amounts of information. So I take a lot from that and I build that. And from my own years in being in corporate America and having my own technology company, my own personal consulting, performative consulting company, and another venture. So I'm speaking from practical experience, people that I've sat with at lunch, people that I've had to be around in terms of conferences and seminars, and everything that I've pretty much put in my own backpack, I'm bringing here tonight to you. Not all of it, of course, but in a particular slice. So tonight's title of our conversation, and I'm just going to keep it at that level, as if we're actually just sitting around in my living room and you have a nice beverage and we're sitting there and we're talking. So I'm going to keep it at that cadence. I'm going to keep it in that framework so that it's very, very comfortable. This is a webinar, but at the same time, I want it to be a conversation to you, Dean, and to everyone else who's going to be viewing this out on YouTube and out on the Gagosian Group website. So again, tonight's webinar is influence over image. I'm Ron Gagosian. That's one of those easy Armenian last names, pronounced Gagosian. And so if you're here because something in your life feels stuck, tired, or off track, you're in the right room. So again, welcome in. And tonight we're going to talk about something every single one of us feels in any stage of life. And so from that premise, now that we're kind of heading and drifting sort of toe level deep into the waters here, so to speak, I like to lead from alignment instead of exhaustion. That's how I personally like to work. I don't like to be in an exhausted state. I like to, and that can be in a lot of different frameworks. So if you're feeling that, if you are in a particular place where you're actually looking for a rebuild, you're in the right place. So at this particular point, I just want to let you know that tonight's conversation is not hype. It's not pressure. This is about clarity. I really, really want to emphasize that. It's about clarity. And to be clear to you, we're not going to go more than 25 to 30 minutes tonight. And I respect your time. It's important to me. This conversation is really going to be, it will be bundled and it will be available to you. So because our internal energies rise, uh, in various stages of our life, whether we're, say, 25 years old, um, or we're 35, 45 to 55, and on, what happens in our world, we begin to feel the pressures of life, the life of work, the life of young professional type of endeavors. It could be family, it could be children, it could be parents, aging parents. There's so many things that create a level of a stage where we're not able to actually perform physically, mentally, and emotionally, um, like we did in the past. We wake up, certain number of us, I know off firsthand, we wake up one day and we're not exactly the same person we were a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about my, and just give you that little bit of piece of background. My background is that I was born and raised in California, in Northern California, particularly San Francisco. And back when I grew up, San Francisco still is a great town, um, great restaurants. You hear a lot of things on the news. I wouldn't believe everything you hear, but it is still a really, really great place to visit still. And it's a great place to dine, actually. The views are still really incredible, and there's a lot to do. But as I go there, I want to just say that it was a great place to grow up. It had a lot of energy to it. If you were into sports, you had the arenas for tennis and golf and all the swimming. If they had numerous pools, so as a child, I was exposed to all of these different levels of physical activity. If it was the arts, you had all of the Golden Gate Park with the De Young Museum and all of the that. You had museums. You had the Museum of Natural History. You had an aquarium. You had even another one. It was called the Junior Museum. And why am I bringing this up? It's because it denotes a period of time where you were and I was in your own life, you were establishing a level of influence. And we live now in a world where image really is something that is really it's in our face. It's in our face, whether we're watching television. I don't particularly watch television, except for certain sports events. And there's the internet. The internet provides to us, whether we like it or not, a lot of images. And some of us follow those images. And so, again, just drilling down, I'm really talking about influence, and influence in your work, influence in your life, and influence in how to sustain that. And some of the avenues that I have act exactly, and in the past, not exactly, pardon me, got a little dry in the mouth there, had an opportunity to fully explore. So I bring up, where I grew up and all of that, and I rose up being in consumer banking. I then went on to commercial banking. I went on to financial services and sales, and eventually, up until I would say, several years ago, over the last decade and a half, I started working for myself. I had had it with corporate America. I had had it with particularly the financial industry, and at that point, the banking industry. Essentially, in my mind, I really didn't want to balance people's checkbooks anymore. And I didn't want to balance the bank's checkbook anymore. I didn't want to actually just, it began to drive me to a particular place where I wanted to establish my own influence and really bring that forth and be able to create with my own hands and really express the vision of what I wanted as the fruit of my labor. And so today, I really believe that energy, there's five pillars that I say that will make you in terms of an incredible influencer. And I'm not speaking necessarily about the internet, but I'm talking about the influence you have directly when you're in a networking event and you're speaking to somebody, or you've had a late night, you've been working on a presentation, you've been working on whatever it may be. It could be other issues where you just need a level of energy and you don't have it. Think about what that means to you in some type of social situation, or even before you get to the social situation. You pretty much say, I really don't want to do this tonight. So you need to be able to take and have a level of emotional authority, because I've spent years trying to produce results by pushing harder, where that may mean mental, physical, emotional. And then one day, as I was mentioning to you, I just realized something simple but life-changing, that I couldn't outperform this level of misalignment. And I was really missing the opportunity to really be that influencer. So everything tonight is built around one thing, and that's built around your internal energy, your 98.6, your heat, your infrared light that you have, inside our bodies, that our brains run on electricity, our hearts run on a form of electricity, and we have this incredible design inside of us that needs to be harnessed. And so with that, I want to transition and bringing the whole aspect of, here's what you really don't know. So if you're in this room tonight and you didn't show up by accident, and obviously, Dean, you found the Gagosian group, you found me somewhere in the world, on the internet. And so something inside of you is asking for more. It could be more energy, more clarity, more personal power, and more quality of life. And so I would assume, I haven't seen you, I haven't met you, but I'm just going to go on the assumption that you're smart enough to recognize that this season of life, whatever season of life you are in, you don't just need information, you need frameworks that actually work. So I specifically work with high capacity individuals. That doesn't necessarily mean that they all make 8, 9 figures. I'm talking about high capacity individuals that show up like you did today, Dean, and want to hear more. I work with people that can actually sit and look at themselves today in the present, and they can say, well, here's what happens if I don't do X. And they actually have the presence of mind to say, if I don't invest my money, and I'm just using that as an example, in my, basically your savings. If I don't have the presence of mind now to save, and then we'll just use the time value of money, putting money, several $100s a month into, or a week, or every payday into a particular mutual fund or a group of funds or what have you. And to say to yourself in that present moment, the outcome of me doing this now will provide for me X years from now, so that if you're unmarried and maybe you don't get married or you live alone, and you will say to yourself, well, not that, oh, great, I can go sit on a cruise ship for, 2 quarters out of the year holding a glass of wine, telling everybody what a genius you were because you invested so wisely. That's not my point. And, I'd say that tongue in cheek, but I have heard people talk to me that way. So I'm using that as a bit of an example. What I'm getting at is that you have, as a high capacity individual, I'm using this as an example, that you can see the outcome of what you either do or don't perform at a particular level, whether it's investing, yourself, your engagement with other people, your relationships. And if you don't see what that positive and negative outcomes could be, for instance, go back to the example of saving in a mutual fund, several $100s or several $1,000s a month, whatever that number might be. That may mean that you can't feed yourself 30 years from now. That may mean you don't have the proper roof over your head or particular skilled facility or whatever that might be, or a level of freedom that will inhibit, will not, won't be, just won't be there. It will be some form of inhibitor. So those are the kinds of people that I'm looking for in terms of wanting to talk to this evening. So the teaching point that I want to really develop tonight is called what I call an invisible drain. So let's start with something most people never talk about of what that invisible drain might mean. It's a silent pull on your energy, and that you don't notice until you're really exhausted or you're ill, or you go to the doctor and the doctor says, you know what? I need you to stay here. I'm going to have my phlebotomist come in and we're going to take some blood. Okay. You good with that? And what do you say? Well, I guess so. Okay. What is this about? What's wrong? And all of that. So I want you to understand that we can wind up in life in places we don't want to be in. And that might be taking good care of your health. It might be exercise. It may be partaking in certain kinds of riskier behavior, more of the riskier things that we put into our mouth and digest. So, and again, no judgment, but there is a lot of science and there is a lot of things out there that we can do. But I want you to understand that you're not broken, you're overloaded. And tonight I'm going to show you how to break that cycle. So, energy before action. Energy is really the flow. We look at the sun, we receive energy. We go for a run, we had to exert energy. Our heart beats, it needs energy. It needs to be nourished. We have energy in our cells, and we have energy that needs to be in our body that has to be efficiently consumed. So, in terms of rebuilding strength, here's the truth. I don't probably really need to tell you how to become, and you've probably figured that out. You may have reasons for what it is that you'd like to do, but I don't really need to go into the aspect of becoming something. So you just need to rebuild regarding your strongest version of who you really already are. It's called a Ronism that I coined many years ago in the financial district in San Francisco, talking to people in certain levels of financial services. And we would get into these discussions, kitchen table types of things, conference room kinds of conversation. And I'd say, money doesn't make you a better person, whether you have a lot of it or whether you don't have much, or maybe you just have a meager amount. It really doesn't make you a better person, but it only enhances who you really are. And I really feel that way about energy. And I'm not talking about energy like you go to a yogi and you sit there and, you're trying. It could be. I'm not saying it couldn't be, but I'm specifically talking about you as an individual, about your energy, reverse aging, I'm speaking to you about some of the main pillars in your life that you may see at this point that are not as stable as they once were. So if you're 25, Dean, or you're 35 or you're 45, you've probably seen that arc. You've seen how much energy you had when you were 25, assuming you're 25 or older, bear with me. Or you may be old a little bit down the road at this point or on your life journey, and you're saying, you know what? I need more sleep. I'm not getting the best kind of sleep. I'm not getting all of the kinds of adequate, sufficient rest I need at the age of 45 or 55. Research is showing that at the age of 30 years old, we begin to lose 50% of our stem cells. 50% of our stem cells, which people talk a lot today, we hear it a lot about DNA and genome factors and a lot of that. Well, I'm not a scientist. I don't have my medical degree. I have business degrees and certificates, but that's really the kind of language that I need to hear from people, especially the research, that to wake up one day and you are 31 and a half years old and to know that the aging process for you is on. And so that means a decrease in energy. It may mean you can't go out and stay out late and try to do it again the next day or do that for 3 days in a row when you could do that in the past or what have you. I'm just being kind of cute and funny here. But I know that you're understanding what I'm saying. It could also be that you're losing momentum in your work, in your workouts, because you're not sleeping. Let's say, and you go to the doctor and you have this opportunity to take a blood test. And the doctor says, you know, I'd like you to come in. I'd like to run some more tests because your C-reactive protein, basically your inflammation in your body as a 45 to 50-year-old or older, is really getting high. There could be a lot of factors for that. There's lots and lots of reasons, which I don't really want to get into here today. But from that particular standpoint, your knees ache, your elbows ache, your shoulders ache. You actually feel as if you got out on the field on Sunday morning somewhere in America or Europe and played, you were on the front line or you took the ball and tried to, get a first down. And you have that feeling like, oh, gosh. Or you went to the gym and you're really trying to work out, but you're not putting on the level of muscle that you used to, and all of that. Or you're having more fatigue in your workouts. And your recovery is not. So a lot of people like to swim. They can't break through barriers. One particular friend of mine swims in the San Francisco Bay. He cannot swim any longer in a heated pool, 73 to 80 degrees. He just can't do it anymore. And I asked him, I said, why can't you come swimming with me and, give me a few pointers? He goes, I just can't get in the water anymore, Ron. You're going to have to come to the San Francisco Bay and get in the water there. Well, right now, probably tomorrow morning, the water will be somewhere between 53 and 50 degrees at this point in time on the calendar. That's a little too chilly for me. But just to say that people's bodies begin to acclimate. What does it take? And so there's a seamless transition that I'd like to begin to talk about. So you understand that it's about sleep, it's about energy, it's about inflammation and recovery. And then there's a next one, and it's about mental clarity. Mental clarity in work, mental clarity at home, mental clarity when you are Driving are just some basic uh, reasons for mental clarity. It might mean you're a student. It might mean you're going to graduate school. I remember going to graduate school years ago, and the way that we would stimulate ourselves after being up all night, after having worked, excuse me, the whole full time, or having sat on an airplane and then get to go to class a few hours later, was a large cup of Starbucks or the particular roastery in the area full of coffee, caffeinated, and really begin that metabolic shift, because that's what you're looking for, is a metabolic shift to stimulate you. That has its own cycle that you really need to be cautious and wary of. And again, I don't practice medicine. I'm not a health practitioner, but I'm speaking about a lot of the basic things that we do, uh, and we just take for granted. We take for granted on an everyday basis because we're tired, we're inflamed. We don't have the mental clarity. Mental clarity is also, believe it or not, part of, from my research and my studies, have come from inflammation, believe it or not. It's actually inflammation of the brain. A lot of people neglect that. They go, my back's sore, my knee's sore. I'd really like, to put some kind of lidocaine patch or something on me, or take ibuprofen to relieve the pain. But there's really pain that is disguised in your brain that's called inflammation. So, what is the game changer? And what was the game changer for me? The game changer for me was this. It's called a patch. It's a 3M medical grade technology patch with organic salts and crystals, and it emulates that I made in my background, which is a patch. It's an X39 patch. It's the name. And this has been a massive game changer for me. And I'm going to reveal some secrets now to you right here and now. I am approaching the age of 70. I actually run, after being on this for the level of energy, I run now better, with more mental clarity, without the stimulant, having a non-transdermal patch, all at 12 hours on and 12 hours off on my C7. So why do I wear this? So that I can have an incredible level of high performance. That level of high performance produces income, and it produces freedom. And so we look at what are the things. So if we actually, in a way, can take care of our bodies, we can stay up and read an extra 50 pages a day or whatever. We can get up earlier in the morning because we went to bed and we actually slept. And we got through the first stages of restorative sleep, which helps with the inflammation. And then we went into a REM sleep, which is a lighter level of sleep. And we wake up in the morning going, wow. I mean, think about it. When was the last time you woke up and really had an incredible night's sleep, feeling refreshed and ready to go at 5 to 5:30 to 6 o'clock in the morning? I would say a great majority of people in today's world, depending on your age, mostly, and even younger folks as well, people of 25 and older, do not have that level of energy and just are not able to perform at a high level. You may think they do because they're creating an image, but what is included in the image? A big tall of your favorite coffee roastery, non-decaf coffee, a sugary, starch-filled donut, or bagel with tons of cream cheese on it. I don't know. Again, no judgment. I'm not saying anything about that. But I'm also saying that there are things that we put in our body to stimulate us. And so my concept here and what I'd like to talk about today as we begin to circle the airport here, as I say, like to land the plane, my whole I guess, just having that sit around the coffee table in a comfortable situation is to have a conversation with you about where you're at. And do you want and do you see yourself as a high capacity individual? I particularly have found a absolute virtually unbelievable game changer. And that game changer is the X39 patch that I wear daily, 12 hours on and 12 hours off. I am so excited about this technology. The CEO and founder, who has a global patent, multiple clinical studies, recently heard him speak in Orange County last month, said that they believe through their trials in the clinic that individuals 25 years up to approximately 45, they believe by wearing the X39 patch and all of the symptoms that I have, with all of the quality aspects of, keeping your riskier behaviors low, eating really well, drinking plenty of water, plenty of sunshine, your exercise, your weightlifting as you get older, some of these pretty much daily habits, you have the opportunity, the potential to live, David Schmidt said, to the age 200. Now, do I want to live to the age 200? I don't think so. But here's what I'd like. I'd like to be old enough to see my godchildren's children, maybe at about the age of, I would say 60 years old if we ran the numbers and ran the math. That wouldn't be bad. That would put me slightly over 100 years old. So you have to make the quality statements for yourself based on how you see life and what you believe your growth pattern will be. Particularly this evening, Dean, I'm trying to bring us to a particular place, and I want to be able to say to you emphatically, my life has changed. My life has changed incredibly. You can see that I'm not 25 years old. I have the energy right now that I could probably go till probably midnight, and all I've had to eat today is fruit, some morning protein with avocado, lots of water, and some electrolytes, and wearing the patch roughly now for 12 hours. That's it. So if you're willing and wanting at this particular point where your interest is peaked enough and you consider yourself a high capacity individual who can see the future and you can see yourself in that future with your outcomes on one side and your outcomes on the other, which basically it's a fork in the road. Remember the old adage that Yogi Berra, the former manager of the New York Yankees, had a lot of yogi-isms, but he said, when you come to the fork in the road, you take it. And that's really, it's true. You come to the fork in the road and you take it. And some people choose the wrong fork, actually. So it's a very, very powerful thought. It's a very, very powerful moment. And I am currently recruiting for my particular business, not tonight, but just so you know, and this is a straight up conversation. I can, for you, provide time on my schedule should you want to speak further about the X39 LifeWave patch, what that means to you personally as a customer, what that personally means to you as both a customer and a brand partner. And I don't want to go into that tonight. It's not appropriate. It's not right, because I want to stay aligned with the beautiful things that I talked about earlier, that this is not hype, but this is about clarity. And so I really, really believe, as a game changer for myself, where my sleep the following morning after day one 2 years ago, and I thought this was absolute hocus pocus dominocus. I was proven wrong. I had been waking up in the morning at about 2:30 to 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the morning and not being able to go back to sleep. There were some other things that were going on personally in my life, and it wasn't about money, but it was about there was some litigation going on, and your brain wakes up and it kind of gets stuck in D2. It's not in drive; it's in some other pulling gear, and it was really getting monotonous. I'd wake up, I'd read, I'd turn the light on. I'd even, before I even was a little bit more educated, I'd look at my phone, and scroll, or I would just read. I'd figure, well, if I read, I'm not only reading a book, I would get sleepy and go back to sleep. Well, an hour and a half, 2 hours later, I've been essentially awake. And then what are you going to do? You're going to nap from 3:30 in the morning until 5:30, 6 o'clock. That's basically what you're doing, because you're not in a really deep sleep. And so you'll miss, maybe I wasn't getting into full restorative sleep. But anyway, that was one game changer for me. The next one, huge, and it may not be your big thing. And I didn't talk about it at all, but it may be age reversal. That X39 patch has a patent for age reversal. It's not the beauty of necessarily your beautiful skin on your face that you want to reverse, but you want to make sure that the collagen around your heart, in your stomach lining, on our internal organs, that level of collagen is not in an inflamed state. That's what causes a lot of disease. So, and from that particular standpoint, so again, sleep, it was energy, then mental clarity. I'm going to let you know right now, I do not have any notes. I'm doing all of this based on recall. I've had a very busy day, and I know that there's, as presenters, you can practice and you can memorize. I don't really believe that today's time with you, Dean, has been about me memorizing a topic and then speaking to you about it. I've been able to go through those points with you, not because I'm trying to boast about what a fabulous orator I am. I'm not. But at the same time, I also want you to understand that what I believe I'm onto, and with the company that I am with, who just actually received last month the Biotech Award for 2024 and 5. That is a very prestigious award to receive as the number one company for age reversal and biotechnology. I'm going to say to you right now, as you're thinking about this, if you have questions, please reach out to me. You may email me at ron@gagosiangroup.com. You can go to the website, and you can look at YouTube. You could look at this webinar again. In fact, I'm going to have my people break this webinar up. I'm kind of feeling it at the moment. I'm actually going to have them break this up and put this into some shorts. So it's not exactly 30, 25 to 30 minutes long. But what I want at this point is to let you know that we're good. I'm feeling good about the time that I've spent here with you, Dean, giving you the opportunity. I would love to meet you. If you have questions regarding X39 and then really growing as a high capacity, and that's something, and the things that I've talked to you today about that have come across in form of clarity and not hype. I've really tried to make sure that you understand from a scientific, from a business standpoint, and from a personal energy, inflammation, mental clarity, and what a game changer can do for your life. That's what I wanted to express to all of you. And Dean, it was wonderful meeting you, even though we didn't get to shake hands or have a nice beverage together. But thank you again. I appreciate you being here. It's been wonderful. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to be with you. And again, if you have any questions, please contact us at www.gagosiangroup.com. We're out on YouTube. You can review these webinars out on the site. Also, I might add, before I leave you, should you have more questions and you want an actual AI-based interactive, please go to my website, click on LifeWave, go. There's a beautiful video in there, very well done from LifeWave. It is so beautiful. It's very inspiring. And then there's another link where you can actually go to an interactive. And that AI-driven interactive, you enter your telephone number, email, and your name. You can just put your first name if you want, but you're here today with me, so I know your last name. The bottom line is that you can take that and you can learn more about LifeWave X39 from a customer standpoint and how you can receive your monthly patches for free as a brand partner. If all of this has made sense to you, I just am excited that you came to join me tonight, and I really hope that I see you again very soon. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Goodbye.